Hey friends, welcome to Living the KG Life, a pixie dust-filled podcast. On today's episode, we have Taasi joining us, who's going to talk all about Disneyland versus Disney World. So stick around, it's going to be great. All right, Taasi, I'm so excited that you're here. Let's just hop right in and get started. So why don't you kick us off and tell us who you are and what you do.
Hi, everybody. My name is Taasi Lenox, and I am Kristen's cousin.
Yay!
I am a mom and a Disney lover,
Yes.
and I also work for a marketing team for a clothing company. So that's what I do.
Amazing. So you said you're a Disney lover.
Yes.
So give us the background, the scoop. What is either your earliest Disney memory or what made you fall in love with Disney?
Sure. My earliest Disney memory. So my parents have always brought me since I was 9 months old or something crazy like that.
Amazing.
My earliest memory, though, is the year that my parents bought DVC. We were in Florida for my mom's old princess house. Do you know what that is?
No.
It's kind of like Mary Kay or an
okay.
MLM, but
Yeah.
it was for dishes.
Amazing.
So we
so
were
Tupperware stuff, like
kind
old
of,
school, straight up in
yeah.
the 90s.
But it was like crystal, so it was very fancy.
Ooh.
So my mom's old princess house, and we were in Florida at the Dolphin for a conference that she was attending. And the conference was being held at the boardwalk. And
so nice.
I can remember us strolling the boardwalk for the millionth time on that particular trip. And one of the showrooms with the little tent, when they put out DVC, check it out. It was 1997. So DVC was still really new.
Yeah.
And my little brother was just a little baby. And I remember my parents being like, let's just check it out. They wander into the showroom, meet the DVC rep who eventually became one of my family's really close friends. My parents got invited to her wedding and
Stop it.
yeah, crazy. But anyways,
That's amazing.
They stroll into this showroom. I remember the boardwalk was all set up. So it was all this candy was out and ice cream. And they were you can leave your kids here. We're going to bring you on a tour. And they were just peace. And left me and my siblings with these Disney, because at the time Disney people were would just take you, I guess. I don't know. Maybe that was a DVC thing. Anyways, they came back from that meeting and had ended up buying into it, and that is my earliest memory of Disney.
That is incredible. And I feel like everything from the setup that you just put out there of even there's candy and ice cream and making it this magical moment. So when you as a kid, you're no, mom and dad,
right,
this is everything and we need it.
I remember us just being our parents just left us here with these random cast members to just see you later. We're going on the tour.
Disney babysitting,
Yeah, it was great. I think they eventually took that away, but for a long time that was a thing. There was a nursery, and most, at least the DVC resorts had them, where you could just drop your kids and go.
Wild.
Yeah.
So you've obviously been going for a long time, since you were a little baby. If you think about maybe in your teens, 20s, now at our age, what is it that either made you fall in love or makes you still in love with Disney?
I think if I was a teenage Taasi looking at my life now, I don't think I would have ever thought I would have elevated myself to this
same
level of Disney obsession. Because I can totally remember going one year, I think I was in 8th grade. My parents brought us down there for Halloween, and I was this is so lame. I hated it.
Oh no.
Which is so weird, because if you know me, you know that my blood, there's little Mickey Mouse platelets that running through my blood. But yeah, I hated it. But I think the thing that made me fall in love was my senior year of college. For spring break, my parents were we're going to let you use our points and you can bring your boyfriend down. And I was okay, this is cool. First big kid vacation with my boyfriend, who is now my husband, by the way.
Hi, Brian.
Hi, Brian. And it was Brian's first time ever stepping foot in Disney World.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yep. So he was, how old were we? I think he was 23 and I was 21. Sounds right. But that was the trip that just solidified it for me. I was just I am obsessed. And I just saw how even though Brian wasn't a Disney person, he like immediately took to it and he was like, this is one of the coolest trips I've ever been on. I think that's when I fell in love with it because I was like, this is so cool that I get to share this with him. And then we ended up getting married, and then Disney just started, you know, automatically being part of like our lives, like going down there once a year or going to Disneyland. So
yeah. And it's not funny, but the smile that was just on your face telling that story is like, I wish everyone listening could see this. Like, you were just beaming. And I think that's the part that makes like the magic of Disney trips.
yeah.
That years later you can say that was our first trip together. That's why that was so special to us. And now it's something that you guys do together.
Right.
And are soon going to do with your beautiful new little baby.
I know. Yeah. Hopefully. Well, actually, yeah, we're going in April. So very exciting.
I can't wait.
I'm like shaking thinking about it.
I can't wait to do another whole episode where we talk all about baby's first trip, because that's going to be incredible.
Yes, for sure.
So now, so far you've talked about Disney World when you went as a kid, and like you and Brian, and how kind of like you guys started going together, but you also are a Disneyland person.
Yeah.
So what we're going to talk about today is kind of like how you do both, and kind of like the Disneyland, Disney World mashup almost. So talk to us a little bit about your Disneyland start.
Sure. My entire family, they live in San Diego. So even growing up, like when we were younger, if we went to San Diego, we'd usually go up to Disneyland in Anaheim and, you know, spend a day, because Disneyland you can do in a day. So we would just drive up. It's a 2-hour drive. So we go to San Diego once a year now as adults, like Brian and I, and now Miley. So we just make it a point when we're on that coast to make a little day trip. Sometimes we'll go longer, depending on like what family we can rope in to come up with us. But it's like, so they go so frequently, they're like, okay, fine, we'll go with you.
I say all the time, I can't wrap my head around living that close to any of the parks.
It's totally different than Disney World too. Just like that mentality of just being like, I'm going to pop up to Anaheim and go to Disneyland today.
Yeah.
Like my sister's there today with my cousin and her daughter, my niece. And I was just saying, it must be so nice to just hop in the car and go up there and grab a churro and walk Main Street. No problem. I'm so jealous.
The dream. So out of the two, is there one that you go to more often, or do you usually kind of do like once a year to each?
Yeah, I think it's more like once a year to each, just because of the way things fall usually. Like we're there in San Diego closer to the holidays, so it's always decked out for Christmas.
Oh, yes.
So the last couple of years we've gotten to experience it that way, which is really cool. And then we usually do like a middle of the year trip to World. But this is like the longest standing time I haven't been in a park, which is crazy. February 2020 was the last time we were there when you and I ran the half.
Yeah.
And I'm like itching to get back.
I cannot wait for your first trip back, because I know that you are going to have probably the same experience and like emotional discharge that I had. Yeah. I did Epcot the first day, my first trip back, and I was like, oh, okay, I come back. This is great. But when I walked into Magic Kingdom, I sobbed. And like people were looking at me. I was like, I'm okay. Because I was also by myself. It was a solo trip. So I was like, I probably look like a crazy person right now, but I don't care. I'm just so happy to be back. And so you're going to have that. Plus you're also going to have the emotion of like Miley's first trip.
Right.
So there's going to be
it's going to be too much.
I'm going to be like, Brian, I need you to FaceTime me so I can watch this all happen.
Yeah. I think I'm going to have like an emotional breakdown, but in a good way.
Yes.
But
like the good release.
Yes, it will be a very, very special trip. First trip back, I think. So
I can't wait. All right, so let's dive into the Disney World versus Disneyland like meat of the episode. So this is going to be super fun. And I think I've mentioned this on some other episodes, but for everyone listening, I have not been to Disneyland yet. I think we talked about this when Courtney was on as well, but I need like all the scoop. So as someone who's like a big Disney World person, you have the great experience of like you do both equally. Mm-hmm. So you can kind of talk about like pros, cons, what's better in the different parks and things like that. Mm-hmm. So let's start with, do you have a favorite? Walt Disney World or Disneyland, and why?
I would say I like Disney World more, only because you can like fully immerse yourself in Disney.
Mm-hmm.
Like from the second you enter that property, nothing can shatter that like Disney mindset bubble, if you will,
Yep.
for you. You know, like everything is branded,
Yep.
right? From down to like the mat on the bus is
Yep.
branded. And I think it's so like Disneyland is so unique because it is in the middle of LA. Like,
Yeah.
so you kind of, it's just like you kind of walk in and you're like, whoa, I'm in Disneyland now. So it's just different because it is
Yeah.
much smaller. So I think World is my favorite.
And now, so like you mentioned, Disneyland has 2 parks.
Mhm.
Disney World has 4,
4.
and they're huge.
Ginormous.
Do you feel, or do you prefer park-wise
Mhm.
one over the other? Like, I still think it's so cool that you can walk in Disneyland from one to the other, whereas
It's amazing.
you can't even think about that
No.
in Disney World.
No. It is really amazing in Disneyland to be able to experience both.
Yeah.
And they are so close together that you can literally bounce between the two like all day long.
So wild.
It is. It's
and not
wild.
get on a bus.
No.
Like,
You
that is
just
the
are
key.
walking
You just straight
across
up
a
walk.
little plaza and you're in the next park. And that's cool. But my one thing I'd say, I think Brian and I do Disney in a very unique way, I guess, because we are not at all go, go, go when we go.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably because we are able to travel to both once a year.
Yep.
So at either park, we are very much like, we'll get on a ride if we want. But for the most part, we are really just there for like the atmosphere
Mm-hmm.
and the feeling that it gives you and just strolling down Main Street. So I don't know. We're like very easygoing park people.
And I think we were talking about this before we started recording, but I think that makes so much of a difference in your trip.
Yeah.
From overwhelm, stress,
Mhm.
feeling like you're missing out, like a true FOMO feeling that can happen of like, well, on this person's trip or on that person's trip or the last time I was here, like if you go in and just kind of like, hey, we're going to see how it goes and go from there, you're going to be a lot less stressed.
Yeah.
And I've also noticed because I've always, until I got my annual pass and still started doing Run Disney and things like that, I was always like, okay, I need to be there as soon as rope drop and stay till park close. I need to get everything in as much as possible. And really, in the last, I would say like 5 or 6 years, like really going as like an adult, so much of that has changed. I've been like, man, like it's okay.
Yep.
I've either done it before or I can do it again. And I'm very lucky, like we're very lucky to be able to say that we can do that or we know we're going to go back.
Right.
But it does make a big difference in how you approach your trip.
Yeah.
And kind of like every day in the trips.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll rope drop, but we won't rope drop in the sense that like, we're like, okay, run to this ride.
Right.
Got a coffee in my hand and we're like moseying rope drop.
Yep.
So
to experience like a little bit less of a crowd.
yeah. And I just
stuff like that.
It's fun to see how other people are like, go like,
Yep.
I'm like, okay, I get it, you know?
And we've all been there. We've
Exactly.
all been there.
Exactly.
So do you feel like you have the same approach in Disneyland and Disney World, or do you do them
Yes.
both differently?
No, we do them very similarly. And again, I'm just going to keep saying it's because we're able to go so
Yep. frequently
that I think it's like we know in the back of our mind, like if we don't get to do something, that there's next time. So we do them very similarly.
Yeah. And I think it's also interesting too to think about, just because I've talked to a lot of parents,
Mm-hmm.
friends that have kids and things like that, family members that have kids, and it might be their one big trip, right?
Right.
And I think that's always an interesting mindset shift, because almost every single time someone's like, nope, this is our one big trip, we're probably not going to go back.
Mm-hmm.
And then they come back and they're like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
We're probably going to go back.
Yep.
And It's like, even going into the mindset that like, you may go back someday
Mm-hmm.
is also helpful. And what we were talking about before was, if you say, okay, I'm going to plan on these 3 things, these are my priorities for the day or our priorities for the day, anything else is going to be extra, which is going to feel even more special, feel more magical, versus like, we're trying to get 10 things in and we only got in 7. Like,
yeah,
almost kind of like the under promise, over deliver kind
Yeah.
of mindset, which is helpful. And then saying, you know what, hey, even if we don't go back next year, we might go back in 2 years, 3 years,
Right.
5, 10, whatever it might be.
exactly.
It could still be like the big trip, and know that eventually you might get back for who knows what kind of opportunity might come up.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great point. I think it's just really good to not put that pressure of like, I need to fit it all in.
Yeah.
Because I mean, even in Disneyland, it's smaller. You can do it all in a day, but it's like you're still going to miss things because it
Yeah.
is that full of activities and different rides, and you know, you got to take your time
Yeah.
and just appreciate.
Absolutely. And something that you just said just made me think of this too is everything is branded, right? Everything is part of that magic. At least I can talk about from the experience of Disney World that
Right.
like even if you don't go to the park, Pat was talking about this, Pat Souza on our episode as a vacation planner that like there are things to do at the resort. There are things
Exactly.
to do like you can go golfing, you can go to Blizzard Beach or Typhoon Lagoon. Like
Mhm.
there's a ton of stuff that you don't have to be at Magic Kingdom all day till close. Like there's
Yep.
plenty of other things to do. Disney will make sure you're having a good time, whether you're on the bus, you're in a restaurant, or you're at the park. Like that also is an important thing that until you go, you won't get it.
Yeah. I totally agree. And that to that point is like we will not pack our itinerary with every day as a park day.
Yep.
We are huge on the pool day and sipping margaritas by the pool, or
I need to get on that level because that's the one thing that
it is
a lot of
so
people have talked
amazing.
about and I haven't done. So I'm really thinking that like an upcoming trip, I'm gonna have to like build in a pool day and just like drink by the pool.
It is the most underrated thing you could do in Disney.
Take note, everyone. Taasi says that's the most underrated thing you can do at
That
Disney.
and riding the transportation. I don't know.
Yes.
This is like a weird Brian and Taasi Lenox thing, but
Love it.
we will ride the Skyliner, the boats, the
Yeah.
buses. We just, I don't know. We like to just ride around and see all the things. It's a good way
Yeah.
to resort hop.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's in World.
Yeah.
But we totally mosey around on all the different Disney transportation.
Yeah. Or to your point too of talking about like the monorail, right? Like
Yeah, the
one of-
monorail. Oh my gosh, how did I forget that?
One of the trips that we did in 2019, me, Jimmy, and Jen did a monorail crawl.
Yes.
So we hopped on and we went and had drinks at all the resorts on the monorail. And
Yep.
we're like, this was awesome. And then
Yeah.
the last trip in September of this year that Jimmy Kelly and I did,
Mhm.
Jimmy and I did a little boardwalk crawl. And we just walked around to all the different restaurants and bars on the boardwalk in the area. Like there are so many different things to do. So you don't have to be at the park.
Right, exactly.
Ugh, I love it. Love it. I'm going to put it on my list for my next trip. Maybe not the December trip because we are going with the kids, so it might be a little different. Although Jen is very big on the pool day as well. She's like, we need like a break day.
It's just so good to, rest your legs,
Yeah.
rest your mind. Just listen to like the calming Disney background music while you're sitting
let
at the
it
pool.
sink in.
Yeah. And they have like fun things for the kids too. The lifeguards will do all these fun activities and it's a great time.
And that's also not just during the day. Like at night they have the movies under the stars.
Yes.
And I think some places do like campfires and s'mores and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
So always check your resorts and see what's available because there's a lot.
Yeah.
So on the note of kind of like resorts and things like that, if you won an all-inclusive stay to either one, which one would you pick and why?
Okay.
And you could stay anywhere. So also tell us
where
you would stay
Okay.
in this trip that will manifest that you're going to win.
Yeah. Okay. So we are big boardwalk people in Disney World. And like we 90% of the time will stay there. Once in a while we might get like a Saratoga Springs stay in. But I think if I was to win a week, I would definitely go to World. Because
Your face is so unsure. You're like, ooh, I don't know.
Because it's so hard because Disneyland has like the whole historical element and we're big history nerds. So we do love that part of it. But there's just so much more to do in Florida.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, obviously, hello, they have a whole city.
Yeah.
I don't know what resort I would stay at. Maybe the Grand Floridian. I've never stayed there before.
Maybe like the Grand Floridian at Christmas time so you can just walk out and smell the gingerbread house.
Gingerbread.
I'm dreaming of our trip in a couple weeks where I am like, we have to go just so we can see and smell the gingerbread.
Yeah. We were in San Diego, I think it was 2 years ago. So we went up and my parents treated us and we all stayed at the Grand Californian.
Nice.
And I did not realize how expansive that resort is. It is beautiful and the rooms are ginormous.
Yeah.
Like same setup as like your classic Disney room, but just a little bit bigger.
Interesting.
Which was very interesting to me. But they do the gingerbread house as
They
well.
do.
Mm-hmm. Their own California version of it. But it was cool because that was the first time I had seen gingerbread built that way.
Yeah.
It was
So
really cool.
for anyone who has not been to Disneyland or Disney World at Christmas time, the gingerbread that we're talking about is in, at least from the one that I've seen in the Grand Floridian, in the lobby, they have a massive real gingerbread house made out of gingerbread. And actually, if you want to see how they do it on Disney Plus, there is a whole docuseries with Whoopi Goldberg
Yep.
about how they decorate for Disney. Even actually, if you've been, go watch it. It is amazing.
It's so good.
One of my favorite things to watch. But they show you like all about the gingerbread house and how they put it together. And it truly, when you walk into the Grand Floridian, just smells like Christmas.
Mm-hmm. And it's amazing because they show you the whole team of like master bakers, pastry chefs, and them assembling it. You're just like, this is insane that this is what goes into building this 6 foot or 7 foot tall gingerbread house.
Yeah, and a lot of them, what I was fascinated by is a lot of them had been at Disney for like years.
Yes.
Like a really long time.
Yeah. And that was like their one project for the year.
Yep.
Like because they bake it all year long because that's how big the pieces are. Mind
Crazy.
blowing.
Go watch it, and then we can all talk about it via Instagram or somewhere because it's incredible.
It's that good.
So something that you just mentioned that I really want to talk about because I know you have a lot of this info is, what is your favorite piece of history or fun fact about Disneyland?
Okay. I thought about this for like weeks on end
I
was so excited about this. My favorite historical fact about Disneyland is the Dominguez family palm tree.
Oh, tell me about that.
Yes, it's very cool. It is to the right of the Jungle Cruise in Disneyland, in Adventureland. And it is a palm tree that has been there since the 1800s. So when Walt bought this particular parcel of land from the Dominguez family, it was a farm.
Yeah.
And he bought it from this guy. I think his name is Ron or Don. One of those. Either way. He bought it from him. His one request was that he keep this palm tree. Out of everything on the farm, please keep this one palm tree. It was a wedding gift to my grandparents in the 1800s. It was planted in the 1800s. And so Walt was like,
must have loved that.
Yep. So he was like, sure, I will honor that wish. I will keep it. And that man that he bought this farmland from ended up being a ticket puncher on opening day and worked his way up to vice president of Disneyland.
My eyes are welling with tears right now.
That
is amazing.
Incredible. Yeah. And so now I think he's passed now, but he has a window on Main Street, USA in Disneyland with his name on it. And that is my ultimate Disneyland fact.
That's amazing. And for people that don't know, the windows are like a big deal. If you get a window on Main Street.
Really big deal.
In Disney World or Disneyland. I don't know much about any of the international ones yet. I will make those someday. It's on my list. But they have like dedication ceremonies and like they're a big deal. So it's someone, I don't know how to describe it, but basically like if you've had a legacy, you've been at Disney for a long time, you've made an impact, these windows get put up. And so as you walk down Main Street, next time you go, look and see all the names because they have kind of like special touches to what they did and what their impact was at Disney.
Little Easter eggs.
Yes.
But yeah, that's my favorite fact. I think it's so cool that he honored that family in that way and that he ended up working for him.
Right. And I think that's something too that if you think about what a lot of cast members at Disney, any of the parks, they all will speak so highly and talk about like what Walt wanted and what he cared about and what was his vision to make these things special.
Yeah.
I can only imagine the people that take care of that palm tree are like, nope, it's got to stay.
Yeah.
This was like the promise that Walt made. Like I can imagine that being something really special to everyone now that works there.
Yeah. It's very cool.
Love it.
Check it out next time you're in Disneyland.
Yes. All right. So how about Disney World? What's your favorite history or fun fact about Disney World?
There's so much for both of them. I think this is my favorite. When Walt built Disneyland, there was no way to hide the cast members. So actually, when you visit Disneyland, this is one of my biggest pet peeves being a Disney World person as well, is you will see cast members like roaming in the wrong areas sometimes.
Oh.
I think they try to minimize it, but every once in a while, you're out of the corner of your eye, you're going to like see a Tomorrowland person in Adventureland or something.
Yep.
Because they don't have the utilidors like Disney World does.
Mhm.
Or even if they do, I think it's on a very much smaller scale than Disney World.
Interesting.
And because they are in downtown LA, you will see cast members walking in with you. Because again, their parking is, I don't know where the parking is, but it must be somewhere where guests also park, because you'll see them walking in.
And it's so interesting that you're like, that's something that's like a pet peeve, because you don't realize it
Right.
when you're at Disney World, that you don't see that.
Yeah.
You don't notice any of that's not happening. You walk in and everybody's already there and they're already in their right place. So, and what Taasi was talking about too with the costumes that the cast members wear is like Tomorrowland cast members wear a very specific outfit. So you will only see them in Tomorrowland. Frontierland, etc. So it's one of those things that's like blowing my mind right now, even just thinking about that. Like, I feel like everybody talks about like the utilidors and all that kind of stuff, but like I've never thought about the fact that I've never seen someone in the quote unquote like wrong place.
Right. And I'm pretty
until
sure
right this moment.
That was Walt's like big thing when he bought Florida. He was like, I need to make sure that this is not the same experience for the Florida people.
It's like part of the magic.
Right. It totally is. It really is.
So for people that don't know what the utilidors and stuff is, talk about what that is and why you think that's so cool.
My understanding as a non-Disney cast member, because I'm sure you're going to have Disney cast members on here eventually, but my understanding of the utilidors, it's like an underground. So Disney World was built on the second level.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So like everything you see as a guest is you're actually standing on the second level of the building technically. So like the basement,
which is wild.
It's so weird to think about. So all underneath, is it all Magic Kingdom or is it all of the parks?
Great question.
I don't know.
We'll have to ask Katie that.
Yeah.
But on that one of the holiday specials, they actually show
some of that
underneath, because no one's ever been able to see it before. I would assume it has to be in every park.
Yeah. I've always seen the footage of Magic Kingdom, so I'll speak to that at least.
Yeah.
They have like little golf carts and stuff and people walking down these long stretches of hallway tunnel system that lead out to each land. And I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
And it's where all like the offices are, like all the offices are and stuff. So.
And just thinking about the amount of thought and detail that has to go into planning that to say like, okay, here's what happens in Disneyland. We don't love that. Mm-hmm. How do we do it differently in other places?
Right.
And how do we make it, like, what's the goal of making that happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's so that everything just feels like it's supposed to be there. They're supposed to be there. They're not supposed to be somewhere else. And like how that all comes together and actually is part of the experience, and why they say backstage and on stage.
Yes.
Is you want to be on stage in the right place.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's
crazy.
Wild.
Now, one of the things that you talked about before is that you said Brian has a fun fact that he enjoys as well. So let's share Brian's fun fact.
I think this is across all Disney parks, I'm pretty sure, is no trash can is more than 30 steps away. Because Disney obviously did their due diligence, did some case study that says after 30 steps, you're going to ditch whatever's in your hand if it's trash. So to combat that, they have placed a trash can every 30 steps.
Which is also, I feel like we've said, like, that's wild, which, like, there's a lot of wild things in Disney World. Mm-hmm. But there's also, that's another piece that makes it that much cooler, because Disney's so clean.
Yes.
And especially over the last 2 years, a lot of people have been like, how was it, with COVID and everything? And, like, baseline, Disney is the cleanest place you'll ever go. One of the trips that I did in May, we were laying literally on the ground in Main Street.
Yep.
We took pictures laying on the ground. I would not usually lay on the ground in public, sober, anywhere, aside from Disney World. But, like, baseline, it is so clean.
It's very clean.
So, the trash cans, and on top of that, they have custodians everywhere.
Yes.
Like, always. So, they really want to make sure that it feels clean, it feels safe.
Yes.
And it feels like an environment that you want to stay in, and not like, ugh, this is gross, I want to get out of here.
Exactly.
So, and that's interesting to think about too. Like, what was that case study that they did? Where they're like, okay, KG, I want you to walk around with this trash in your hand
Yep.
and tell me how long until you want to throw it out. Or even thinking about like the parades, right? If you don't want to lose your spot for the parade or the fireworks or getting in line for something, you can always be like, oh, there's a trash can right over there. Run over, drop it, and come right back. Like you're not leaving an experience to go throw something out and come back.
Right.
So cool.
Yeah, very cool.
All right, so let's talk about, I know you said you do Disneyland and Disney World fairly similarly, but they're still pretty different. So as someone who does both, what are some of the must-dos, traditions that you have when you go to, we'll start with Disney World this time.
Okay. Traditions when you go to Disney World, I already touched upon it a little bit, is riding the monorail, the Skyliner, because it's just a great way to like mosey. We're such mosiers. I don't know. We are not.
I love the amount of times the word mosey has come up so far on this podcast.
We love the parks, but we equally love just immersing ourselves in all the other theming that Disney has done.
Yeah.
And it truly is amazing because they have a theme, the resort, for literally anything.
Yep.
So we love to do that. So that's one of our big traditions.
Do you have like any restaurants that you eat at or rides that you're like, we have to go on at least
People Mover is my numero uno spot in my heart.
And that's
for rides.
The People Mover is so fascinating to me because I feel like as a kid, I was like, I do not want to go on the People Mover.
Yeah, same.
And then as I got older, I was like, People Mover is number one. Have to go on the People Mover at some point in the day. And for the people who have not gone on the People Mover, describe it for us.
It is just amazing.
Like, why do you love it so much?
I think it's because you just get on and you can people watch. You get a little bit of Disney history in there when they bring you through some of the other, it brings you through other rides. And then there's like little installations within those little rides of history. And I just love that. And a lot of times, because the People Mover is so underrated, they will allow you to stay on for an extra loop.
Yep.
Yes. So I think that's why we like it. It's just a good way to take a break.
I was just going to say,
while
it's a great break
still
ride.
Doing something.
Yep.
But it's a nice way to rest your feet.
Yeah. And like you said, too, you get kind of like a little bit of a behind the scenes look at things. Like you get to see Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger spin and Space Mountain and kind of see like the back end of things. So if you have not been on the People Mover yet, your next trip, make sure you go on it for Taasi, myself, and all the other people. It also feels like our generation, for some reason, really loves the People Mover.
I agree with you.
Almost like a cult classic kind of ride.
For sure.
And I haven't figured out why that is yet, but I'm a part of that group. So
yeah, we'll have to think about that. Why it is so popular. But it's a good one. Yeah, you got to try it out.
So what about Disneyland? Are there any things that you have to do there when you go? What are those?
Disneyland. So we love when we first enter Disneyland. So there is a fire station like there is one in Magic Kingdom Disney World. But this fire station has Walt's apartment above it. And because Brian and I love history so much, we always kind of stop and just say like, wow, that's where Walt would stay when he would come to the parks. And it's just kind of like a little way to say hi to Walt on your way in. So we like to like stop and take a picture with it and like.
And you just shared that picture the other day on your Instagram story, right?
I did. And I think it's just so fascinating that he built himself like a little space for him to oversee when it was being built, like making sure it was all getting done correctly. So that's one of our big traditions. And then from there, Disneyland has New Orleans Square, which is over kind of near, it's where Frontierland, I think, would be in World.
Okay.
In between Frontierland and Adventureland. Anyways, New Orleans Square, Mickey beignets. Always have to get Mickey beignets because they don't have them in Disney World unless you go to Port Orleans, which is its own resort.
Yes.
So
that was actually when we stayed there in 2019. That was the first time I had a beignet. Me, my mom, Jen, and Josie went that morning, one of the mornings, and walked over there. Another fun fact about Port Orleans for beignets is they have I don't know if they still do it. When we were down there, they were doing a 5K. It was like every Sunday or every Saturday.
Oh, really?
They do like a fun run 5K. and you get a beignet at the end, is what I was told.
Oh, that's so cool.
And one morning we're like, oh, we definitely want to do that. And they're like, it's too early. We're not doing that today.
Yeah.
We're just going to go get the beignets and relax instead.
Yeah.
So I'll be curious to see if that comes back.
That is, yeah. The beignets are excellent. So we always get them when we go to Disneyland.
Now, before we jump to the next thing that I really want to talk about, something that has not come up yet from Disneyland, and I'm shocked, is Cars Land.
Oh my goodness. Because I think it's because we were like normally like Brian, if Brian had control of our Disneyland trips, we would go into California Adventure and we would park it in Cars Land for the rest of the day. He would not leave that land if he was
Pun
allowed.
intended.
Yes, pun intended. The way they did Cars Land, I get goosebumps thinking about it. It is so good.
Tell us everything. So we will dedicate a whole little section right now to Cars Land.
It is.
What is so great about it? We can also talk about Cars, the movie, because every time I watch Cars or talk about Cars or see something about the movie Cars, I will literally text Brian and Taasi and be like, just want you to know.
Yeah. It's just like they do a phenomenal job theming all of their areas.
Yeah.
I just think because we love that movie so much, to see it in such detail and see it executed the way they did, it's incredible. And the forced perspective with like the Cadillac Mountain, it's insane. I wish there was a Cars Land in Florida because it is so good.
That was going to be one of my questions. Like, if you could take something from Disneyland and put it in Disney World, what would it be?
Cars Land.
Cars Land.
Yeah. I don't know if they would replicate that land because they have the Toy Story section in studios now, but from the movie, like everything about the movie is correct in the land. Like the layout where Flo's Cafe is adjacent to everything. It's so good.
Like all the detail is there.
It's all there.
Because I think the only other things that are Cars in Disney World is they have at Hollywood Studios, they have the little Lightning McQueen thing right next to Rock and Roller Coaster.
Yep.
And then I think it's Art of Animation, they have a Cars section.
There's a small section.
But I think like that's really the only place you can get like any kind of Cars stuff there.
And I think actually, here's another fun fact.
Yes.
That section of California Adventure was supposed to originally be a Southern California ode to car culture. So hot rods, street rods.
So Brian would have loved it either way.
He would have loved it either way, but because Disney came out with a Cars themed movie, then they were like, perfect, retheming, it's going in as Cars. So worked out really well for them.
So good. I will also say that I had mentioned on one of the previous podcast episodes that I loved Cars 2, and Taasi texted me and was like, dude, what? And I'm going to defend myself for a second. I love Mater so much. I don't care what he's doing. He could be a special agent. He could be a vampire. He could be doing anything, and I will love it.
I understand a little bit, but
you're like, but still no.
Yeah. Cars 2.
And Shelby was on the same boat. She was like, 2 was the worst one.
Yeah. It's 1 and 3 are like, and Brian will say 3 is the best because obviously they talk about hot rods in the third one. So that's,
his jam.
Yeah.
Do you think they'll come out with another Cars movie? Have we heard anything about that?
So this is really interesting, but Brian was down at a car show in Newport, and he met the creative director of the Cars franchise.
Yes, you told me that.
Which is really cool. And he made a haha, like, I'd love to see like a backstory on Doc Hudson. What's going to happen with that? And I guess he was just like, oh, that he was very coy, I think, and was just like, that sounds like a good idea, and kind of left it at that. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's like a prequel.
That would be so cool.
Yeah.
Or even like now they've been doing so much on Disney Plus with like different series.
Exactly.
They could easily do a series, I feel like, on Mater, on like Doc. They could do it on so many people in Cars.
Right.
Kind of like how, they're doing one on Baymax from Big Hero 6. They just announced that at Disney Plus Day based on like when we're recording right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like Tiana's getting a series. Like there's so many different characters, like really big ones to like Baymax, who was big but not as big as like Tiana, right? So like I think they're gonna Disney Plus is something that gives them an opportunity to tell more stories.
Exactly.
And also do it in a way that's smaller. Like it doesn't have to be a big blockbuster movie
Exactly.
to get out a story.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've watched them yet, but the Olaf Presents
Oh my gosh, they're
on
so
Disney
good.
Plus.
Yeah.
They're hysterical.
They are.
My niece, Josie, and the boys, Nate and Sam, loved in Frozen 2, like that whole piece when Olaf was like telling the story of like how we got here.
Yep.
And like Josie would recite it.
My goodness.
Loved it. So I called Jen the other day. I was like, you have to watch this with the kids. They're gonna love it. I was like, it's only like 10 or so minutes long.
It's nice.
I was like, I just continue to watch them because they're hysterical.
Yeah.
And someone like Josh Gad is like, I'm in. Yeah, let's do it. I will totally be Olaf dressed as Moana.
Yes. Oh,
Done.
I love
Let's
it.
do it. So yeah, I think that like that's such a cool way for them to revisit characters, tell their stories, and have it not probably feel to them as pressure filled or as not as serious, but kind of like not as serious, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not as big of a project.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's just a nice
don't
way
worry.
to continue the story. Exactly. Because people want more. They want to know more.
Exactly.
And a lot of times these characters have backstories.
Yeah.
So.
And now they have a platform to pull it all together. Like, I didn't know there was a whole Tangled series about like her and Flynn and all this kind of stuff. And I had no clue. But I saw it on Disney Plus. And I was like, wait a second, what is that?
Yeah.
And there was like seasons long. Like there's a ton of episodes on there. So now it's also that like those stories, if they do choose to do a sequel, a prequel, a series, it's not going to get lost in the mix. It'll be easy enough to find on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Thanks for taking this quick detour because I feel like Cars is something that's so, to me, like so Brian and Taasi.
Yes. We're very passionate about it.
All right. So let's talk about Disney World, Disneyland. What would you say are the top 3 things that would make a Disney World person want to go to Disneyland?
The top 3 things is it's the OG.
Mm-hmm.
It is where Walt brought all of his ideas together and how this whole massive thing that we call Disney even got started. So I think that's the biggest point. The other 2 I think are just the feeling when you go there is so amazing because you're like, wow, I am walking literally on the same pavement as Walt Disney himself. I don't know
that I'm going to be able to handle that. Like that's going to be so...
You will be a puddle.
Powerful, I feel like.
It's so amazing. And then California Adventure is its own park in itself. There is very California specific things within it. And they just did a really nice job bringing that to life. And I think if you love Disney World, you are absolutely going to love every single detail that was poured into Disneyland. And also, Downtown Disney is in between the 2 parks. So you can do all of it, the shopping, the parks, the rides, everything within, that space, which is really great.
And that's also a good point, too, to think about for people that like maybe in your group, if everybody doesn't want to spend the whole day at the park.
Yes.
And, everyone's of age to be like on their own and whatnot. Mm-hmm. You could say, hey, we're going to go head over to Springs for lunch or at Downtown Disney and then come back. You know what I mean? Like you guys can kind of like split out and do your own thing and be able to come back together more easily than I'm going to Animal Kingdom. You're going to Epcot. We'll meet back at the resort kind of thing.
Yeah. And oftentimes we go with my niece. So it is nice to be like, okay, she wants to go off and do Fantasyland for a little while. So Brian and I will go over to California Adventure and ride some of the big kid rides.
Yeah.
if you will. So I think that's really nice that it is just so it's more compact. So you can, you are able to do that.
So now what about the other way around? What are the top 3 things that would make a Disneyland person want to go to Disney World?
Okay. Yeah. The top 3 things for a Disneyland person is 1, the second you step off the airplane and onto the Magical Express or whatever mode of transportation to get to the parks and the resorts, you are truly in it. Mm. There's really nothing inside of that bubble that will shatter.
Yeah.
Like that feeling of constant, Disney magic, if you will.
Yep.
And the 4 parks are huge, because you don't have that in California. All 4 are so different from each other. And even Magic Kingdom is so different from the original Magic Kingdom, Disneyland, that they, Disneyland's person mind would just be like, oh my gosh, where do I go first? Like they'd be totally mind blown. Yeah.
I love it. I will say I saw some pictures this week of the castle at Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
and it looks like the dream lights are on the castle. And I'm not happy because I want the dream lights at Cinderella's castle
I
so
know.
badly. And I'm so sad that we don't have them.
Yeah.
Some California Disneyland folks, I am very, very jealous of you right now this holiday season.
They're pretty good.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing. If you had to give a tip, one tip to Disneyland person going to Disney World, what would it be?
I've already kind of prepped my cousin for this because she has only been to Disneyland. I've already told her, you just need to calm down.
Yes.
Is my
Take a
biggest
breath.
thing because she's very much like me. She like loves everything Disney, so she's very passionate about it, and she wants to fit everything in. And I'm just like, you will not have fun if you try to do that. You're just gonna stress yourself out because there's so much. Just take it easy, take it all in, and then pick like the top 3 most important things to you, like we were talking earlier.
Yeah,
because it is so much bigger and there's so much more to cover, both physically and mentally.
Yeah.
You just need to take it slow and take it all in because there's a lot and you can get overwhelmed really easily.
Yes. And your one tip for the Disney World person going to Disneyland for the first time, like me.
Take a very slow stroll down Main Street.
Okay. Oh, I love that. I think that's a really great tip.
Yeah, because it's just really amazing for big Disney fans to be like, this is the original. This is where it started.
And like truly think about that. Like,
yes.
Know where you're at and like what that means as a Disney person.
Yeah, that would be my one tip.
Love it. Last question before we jump into our kind of like speed round of stuff.
Okay.
What are you most excited to take Miley to?
Oh,
and
don't do this to me.
Why? You can even split up if you want to do what you're excited about bringing her to Disneyland and then what you're excited to bring her to in Disney World. But
I'll do Disney World because I don't know the next time we're going to Disneyland yet. But we have a plan for Disney World in April. I think I'm most excited to bring her. So in February 2020, after we ran the races, we actually announced our pregnancy with a photo in front of the castle with one of the bricks. Baby Lennox coming.
Yep.
So I'm most excited to go do like an after photo of her in that same spot. That's what I'm most excited for.
That's going to be incredible.
Yeah. That and just we're staying at the boardwalk, and that's the resort obviously that I've grown up going to from little childhood. So it's really, really surreal to me that I will bring my own child to this same resort, and we're going to have that same, not the same. We're going to have a new family experience.
Yep.
I could cry thinking about it because it's going to be really, really special.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you also just kind of like slyly were just like, yeah, while we're there for Run Disney, like we announced we were pregnant. Taasi ran the challenge pregnant.
Wild.
And I remember, I think it was I forget if you told me before we went or if you told me when we were there.
I think I told you when we were there.
And I remember, so I had mentioned this on a previous episode that like I literally ran into you on the course. And I'm like, I will to the day I die say that Taasi got me through that goddamn half marathon. Because
and same back to you.
Like there were times I was like, I can't do it. And you're like, you can do it. Like let's run to that pole right there. We'll make it.
Yep.
And the whole time I was like, she's got a baby in there. And she is just killing it right now. Like you have, I think, so many cool memories to think about, and then like cool stories you can tell Miley too. Of like, you've already done a half marathon, you've already done a 10K, like you did it with me in Disney World, and then being able that photo is going to be awesome.
That was the best I will say. Is well, we were together in the corral, like in the corrals before, but then we had like parted ways. But I still to this day say the same thing to Brian. Like I wouldn't have finished that half marathon if Kristen didn't bump into me and was like, "Hey, you want to keep going together?" And and honestly, I wouldn't have done it alone. Absolutely not. My mind would have gotten to me. So
that's a lot of highway.
Yeah,
and
it's so much highway.
I did not realize that literally. I think until halfway, we were like, "Where are we?
Yeah,
what is happening right now?" Because in my mind, I had always been like, "I'm never going to run a half marathon. I'm never going to do more than a 5K." And then I did a 10K with Jimmy, and then it just has spiraled to where we are now.
Yes.
But it was at Princess, I think 2019. I was with Jen Leary, and somebody was like, "Oh, well, yeah, like we know we can get to go through the castle." I was like, "I'm sorry, what?"
Yeah.
I get to go through the castle. And they're like, yeah, for the half marathon for Princess, you run through Cinderella's castle. I was like, well, shit, now I have to do a half marathon.
Exactly. That was the only thing motivating me as well.
Yeah, I was like, I have to do that. But what they didn't tell me was that was only halfway.
Exactly.
And literally, I feel like when we were going and we were like, wait, we're already at the castle? That means it's only like mile 6.
Yeah.
We have a long ways to go.
And it was a long ways.
And I mean, we didn't stop for a character photo.
No.
We didn't, like, we stopped for the bathroom because I was like, I don't know where I am. I don't know when the next porta potty's coming.
Yep.
It's like when you're with your mom on a road trip and she's like, you should try.
Do it.
I was like, you know, I'm just going to try.
Yep.
I'm going to just try to go to the bathroom. But we stopped on the boardwalk. We saw, it was in Epcot.
Yes.
We saw Brooke from BB Brooke. And we were like, oh my God. And we're like, Brooke, we haven't stopped for any characters. You're our only photo stop this whole race because we just want to finish. She was like, go get your bling. We
were screaming so loud. We were screaming like teenagers. We saw her.
Fangirling.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was the best. That was such a good experience, honestly.
Yeah. And what's funny is I watch a lot of, I love, obviously, like right now, for everybody listening, I have some Disney looping on the TV on YouTube. And I love all of the YouTubers that are out there putting out Disney stuff. And people, so whether it's leading up to a Run Disney race or like a registration week, like I'll end up watching a lot.
Yeah.
And actually, even Wine and Dine that just passed, people were live streaming running these races. And I was like,
how?
I am watching a live stream of somebody running a half marathon. I don't know why I'm watching this, but I'm fascinated. And so much of it, I'm like, I don't remember any of that.
Yeah.
It's like truly, I blacked out. I know I was with Taasi and that was it. I got nothing. And I'm even like watching some of the videos that people have from February 2020. I'm like, I don't remember running. I did not run by that.
Yeah.
I did not see that. And I'm like, well, clearly I did. But like, there was just so much happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you feel the same way or am I like crazy?
No, okay. I definitely feel that way. I like vaguely remember like some bands every once in a while because they have the bands out and like Lady Tremaine and that stretch of highway that I just can't even when I drive down it now.
If you could see Taasi's face, it's like literally
scary times. But we did it. That's,
we did it.
It was amazing though.
I can't wait for the next one. Well, I can't wait to see all of the photos of Miley's first trip. I'm going to be stalking your Insta.
It will be a hot week on Taasi's Instagram.
Lots of people will be paying attention.
Yes.
All right. Are you ready for speed round of favorites?
Yeah. Hit me.
So we're going to do East Coast, West Coast edition.
Okay.
So we'll do, the first going to be which one has the better fill in the blank.
Oh, I hate that. But I love it.
Then we're going to do your favorite. Okay. So it'd be kind of like out of either one.
Okay.
All right. Which has the better resorts?
East Coast.
Okay. Who has the better restaurants?
That's tough because Disney does dining like no other. Like in terms of level of service, everything. I'd say East Coast just because the quality of restaurants, especially in Disney Springs, are like top tier.
Love it. Favorite, or I guess which one has the better parks?
Better parks. That's a really hard one because I think I love Disneyland just as much as I love Epcot.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna pick between the two. Sorry.
It's a tie. It's a tie. The first tie so far on the podcast. I love it. Which has the better rides or attractions?
Also such a tough question. Why are you making me do this? I guess I'm gonna say Disneyland.
Ooh, okay.
But okay, yeah, I'll leave it at that. Disneyland.
All right. Which one has the better snacks?
Again with Disneyland. I don't know, maybe now it's changed, but you could only get Jack Jack's cookie in Pixar Pier in California Adventure. It might have changed, but that cookie alone I will say Disneyland has the better snacks.
The Num Num cookie, right?
Yes.
You can now get it in Disney World and Hollywood Studios.
Holy smokes.
Yep. You can get it, when you're walking, there's like the Incredibles Plaza, I think it's called. The Incrediplaza Plaza maybe. And you take a right to go to Hollywood Studios. On the left, there's the Joffrey's little thing. You can get it in there.
Okay. Well, the Disneyland one is like a dedicated stand to this cookie. So, and it's right like under the Incredicoaster.
Oh, see, like that also gives it a whole vibe altogether.
So
I actually really, I will say, before we keep going, I feel like The Incredibles deserve more at Disney World.
Agreed.
Yes. And I'll leave it at that.
Agreed.
All right, which one has the better merch or collectibles?
Again, Disneyland.
Disneyland is taking like a pretty big sweep almost on this side.
Yeah, Disneyland, I think.
I love it. All right, so it looks like we've got restaurants, resorts, and parks. Our Disney World.
Okay.
Right? Rides, attractions, snacks, and merch. All Disneyland.
Wow. What a split.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, there was some that you also didn't choose one. Which one was that?
Rides.
Was it rides, maybe?
Or parks. It was parks.
Parks. So, like, yeah, pretty close to an even split then. Love it. All right, so let's do your speed round of favorites. So this can be at either one, anywhere.
Cool.
What is your favorite resort?
The boardwalk.
The boardwalk. So we just stayed at the boardwalk. Actually, my last 2 trips I stayed at the boardwalk.
Yeah.
And that has quickly become a favorite. And that's something like I know you've always talked about the boardwalk.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've got to stay there at some point. But it really is, if you haven't stayed at the boardwalk yet, add it to your list. It really is incredible in terms of the resort itself, the vibe, the actual boardwalk outside the resort.
Yes.
Walkability to Epcot and Hollywood Studios.
Huge.
Incredible.
I think it's because it's smaller compared to all the other resorts.
Yeah.
Like volume of room size. So I think that's why I like it so much.
Love it. All right. Favorite restaurant?
I know I wrote this down in my notes, but now I'm thinking like all these other things are popping into my head. I think our favorite restaurant is Beaches and Cream in the Beach Club.
Oh, Beach Club.
Yeah, the Yacht and Beach Club.
That's actually on my list for this next upcoming trip because we're staying like in that area. So I'm really hoping that I think the kids will love it there.
Yeah, the Beach Club is supposed to be traditional New England coastal vibes.
Yeah.
So I think that's why we like that restaurant because it's like an old school diner.
Yeah.
Is what the theming is. So
I love
it.
It's
really cool.
All right. What's your favorite park?
Epcot. We love a good drink around the world.
Yes.
We also like, I keep saying we love history. So with all the countries there, it's really cool. Like, you know, some of those countries actually had country ambassadors like help build them, which is insane. Like Morocco is a huge one, very authentic to real Morocco. So
yeah,
Epcot is such an underrated park, I think.
Yeah, and I think you have to really almost kind of know what's happening to really appreciate Epcot. Like, because some people are like, oh, like that's not like a lot of like theme park, like thrill rides and stuff, but like there's so much to do and see at Epcot.
Yes.
I'll do a quick plug for one of our upcoming episodes with Katie Vining, who takes us a little bit backstage. She shared in that episode a lot of really cool Epcot stuff. So
I can't wait.
Because she worked at Epcot for a while. So
yeah,
she has some good stuff in there. All right, favorite ride or attraction at each park?
Okay. Disneyland is Pirates.
Okay.
Because it's like 15 minutes long and it's the best ride. Like,
and it's different from Disney World.
Different. Yes, it's very different. It's so good.
Love it.
I love it so much. Like you can, if I beeline to anything, that's the ride I'll beeline to.
I love it. All right, so how about every other park? What's your favorite ride?
Every other ride?
Yep, every other park.
Yep. Holy cannoli. I already said Magic Kingdom was People Mover.
Mm-hmm.
Epcot would have to be a tie between the ride in the Mexico Pavilion.
Oh, yep.
And Test Track.
Okay.
Animal Kingdom would be Everest. Because with the Yeti. And Studios. I haven't been to Studios in a hot minute.
Really?
Yeah. But actually, you know what? Tower of Terror. Such a good ride. That's my answers.
I love it. What about, did we do DCA or did we just do Disneyland?
Yes, DCA. Hello. I think in my brain I group them as one, even though they're not. They're two separate parks. California Adventure, the Incredicoaster.
Love it.
It's good. It's
really
fun.
It just looks so cool. And it's so different from all the other roller coaster thrill rides that Disney has across the board. So I think that's a super cool one. All right, favorite snack?
I already touched on the cookie, but I think
is that your favorite?
Beignets.
So either one.
Yeah, I would go with either one. The Num Num cookie or Mickey Beignet.
So important to note that both of Tassi's favorite snacks you can get at Disneyland or Disney World.
Yes.
So that's a key.
You just have to work a little harder in Disney World to get the beignet.
Yes. And even the Num Num cookie, like you have to kind of work your way in there to get it, but it is worth it. The cookie is gigantic, and it is.
I think it's the size of my face.
Yeah.
It's and like 4 inches deep.
Yeah, I think last time we split it between like 3 people.
Yeah, it's a sharing snack. It is not an individual snack.
And if it is your individual snack, good for you.
Yes, I applaud you.
It is a good ass cookie. All right, what is your favorite merch or collectible item? Now, this could be either something that you have that's your favorite that's really special to you, or something that every time you go, you like to get, or both.
Yeah. Okay. My favorite merch item I think that I've ever gotten is the conductor hat.
Yes.
And it is a seasonal item that you can only get in DCA on Buena Vista Ave when you first enter DCA. It's usually I don't know the shop name. I think it's Elias & Co. It's to the left. But you can't always get it because it's seasonal. And Brian has worn it in Disney World a few times, and the volume of people that come up to us being like, where can I buy that hat? Because it is the train conductor hat with Mickey ears on it.
Yep. Every time I see a hat like that, I think of Brian.
Yeah, and every time he wears it in Disney World, he gets bombarded with questions, and I always feel bad because we have to be like, you can only get it in Disneyland.
Yeah, and it sounds like at certain times of the year.
Yeah, and I think it's only, I don't even know what those times are because someone gifted us that hat.
Oh, wow.
But it's not always there. So I think that's our favorite item.
And is there anything that you get every time you go that, like, do you collect like pins or ornaments or Spirit jerseys, ears? I know we're both big ear people.
I'm a big ear person. When I was younger, my dad's thing was pin trading.
Yeah.
We have bags of Disney pins.
Yeah.
That I remember being little, my dad's line was, these are going to be worth a lot of money someday.
Yeah.
And now they're literal in bags stacked in their guest room in their house. So that's like a running joke with our family. But I think the thing that Brian and I get most when we go now is a Christmas ornament.
I love that.
To add to the tree every time we go.
And like we were just talking about before we started recording, you can do like a whole Disney tree once you eventually have like all of those ornaments.
Exactly.
Perfect. All right, last 2 favorites. And I know these are going to be tough for you, but we're going to do it.
Okay.
Favorite Disney movie?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's so hard. Probably Moana.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, because she represents my family culture type thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's so cool that we now have a Disney princess for the islands. So Moana, I think, is going to be my favorite for right now.
I love it.
Stick with that one.
And now I think it's really important to call out what you just talked about. That there's like a princess like you in the like Disney World.
Yeah.
How do you feel they did overall with Moana and the culture? Because I feel like Moana was huge.
Yeah.
Like it was like everything about Moana was popular and fun and exciting. Like everybody loved it.
Yeah.
So from your perspective, how do you feel they did with Moana?
I think that I'm pretty sure Moana was based mostly on Polynesian culture.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like the Pacific Islands aren't just Poly. You know, there's Micronesian, Melanesian, there's all different branches off.
Yep.
And generally the cultures are all very similar. So I think from that perspective, I could say that Moana is pretty accurate.
Yeah.
And it's insane the research and development that goes behind any of the Disney movies, but especially when it has cultural significance.
Mm-hmm.
The care that they put into it to make sure that it is depicting those people correctly it's mind-blowing.
I love it.
And Moana is so good.
Moana is incredible. Like overall, I feel like the story, she's powerful, she's independent. Like I love everything about Moana. And I know with the Princess Weekend 2022, Moana is, I believe, the challenge medal.
Yes.
And we were talking about it, and I was like, oh no, it's Moana. What are you going to do?
It just gave me more motivation to get my butt signed up for the next princess.
Yes.
And I missed this one.
You're killing it with Peloton, though. So you're still putting in the work, which is amazing.
Exactly.
But what I really hope, another quick tangent, but I really hope that they keep the virtual options for those, because something like that is so cool. I feel like, hey, I already have a trip in April. Like I'm not going to be able to swing another one in February. Right. But if you're like, I love Moana, I want to be able to do this and, get these medals.
Exactly.
If Disney, I know you're not listening, but if you are,
They might be.
keep virtual forever.
Yeah.
Please.
It is a nice way to
Please.
still be part of it.
Yeah.
If you can't make it.
Yeah. And even so Wine and Dine just happened a couple weeks ago, and I did the virtual 5K and 10K. But it was so cool that knowing the races were back and everybody was excited.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just running in my damn neighborhood. But I had my, previous Wine and Dine shirts because they were the same characters, just different races.
Yeah.
But I was like, I still feel like I'm kind of a part of it, even though I'm running through Medford, Massachusetts. I'm not not running through anything exciting. I think that's a great way for them to keep the excitement and still let people feel connected to Run Disney.
Exactly.
Even if they're not there.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
So Disney, just do it for us.
Yes, please, please.
All right, last one for favorites. Who is your favorite Disney character?
I knew this question was coming up. And right now, because I change my mind all the time. In terms of when I'm buying Disney characters for myself, I could go with classic Mickey all day long.
Yes.
I'm all here for a subtle Mickey on anything.
Yep.
But I think my favorite character right now is 22 from Soul.
Tell us why.
Because she's so sassy.
Yes.
And I honestly, we joke around and we call Miley 22 because she's got a big attitude.
Yeah.
Have no idea who she got it from. Brian?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. She's just sassy and if you've seen the movie, right?
Yep.
It's so... the amount of adult humor in it just cracks me up.
Yep.
It's just so funny. I love it.
And kind of bringing everything full circle from the parks to the resorts to the bus mats to the movies, whether they're representing something culturally or talking about deep things like feelings and existential crises of life.
Yep.
The detail of what Disney does is incredible. And I think that's something you and I have talked about for years. And we're just oh my gosh, this is amazing. And you mentioned this with talking about Moana, the research that they do and the little details that they put into things is unbelievable. I remember the first time I went to Galaxy's Edge, they had in the ground, it's not, smooth pavement.
Nope.
It looks rough. It looks bumpy. There's little spots where it looks like droids have gone through the ground. They want you to feel, like you're saying earlier too, in that bubble. You go at Disney World, you go under that gate, that Walt Disney World gate.
Yep.
That every time, everyone that talks about it, the two of us have the biggest smiles right now because everyone knows once you get under that gate, everything is going to be special. Yeah, it's on.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, so our last question, and this has been, I will say, my most favorite part of doing the podcast is hearing the magic moments that everyone has had on their trips. Yes. And the amount of people have messaged me I am crying. This is incredible.
Yeah.
Everybody's magic moments are so different and so special, and so much of it plays into how they fall in love with Disney or why they fall in love with Disney.
Yes.
So I'd love to talk about your magic moments, both at Disneyland and Disney World and kind of all of those things. So tell us, what is your favorite or your most magic moment that you've experienced at any Disney park?
Okay. I think my favorite was right after Brian and I got married. Mm-hmm. We went on a trip, and I'm not a big button person. You know how you can go to town hall and get the buttons?
I'm a big button person.
Well, now I am a button person, but I wasn't at the time. But, everyone was like, you need to go get the I'm celebrating button and put it. So we had at the time they had a wedding or anniversary themed one with, the little rings on it and everything. So we're wearing those in Epcot, and it's the end of the day, and we've already done Epcot, and we're like, let's just go back to the room and have a quiet night. We won't stay for the fireworks. So we're coming through the France Pavilion, and there's a really well-known bump out there where they do, a lot of times that's where the Disney weddings are. Mm-hmm. So there's a man standing there with a white rope, and we're just moseying on by, and he's flagging us down. We're on the opposite side of the walkway.
Yeah.
And he's flagging us down. And I was like, this guy trying to get our attention?
Yeah.
And Brian's like, I think so. So we walk up to him, and he's like, oh, what are you guys celebrating? And we're like, oh, just a delayed honeymoon. We're here. We just got married. And he was like, oh, okay. Are you guys going to stay for the fireworks? And we're like, nah, we're actually just heading out because the exit to get back onto the boardwalk area is right after France.
Yep.
And he's like, well, like, you should just maybe, like, take this walkway instead. And we're like, okay. So we were so confused because we were just like
Yeah.
over it, you know, like we were just like not in that mindset.
Yep.
So we're like, okay, whatever. We'll like play along with this guy because he wasn't like telling us like go down here and like he's like
Right.
just like check it out down there. So we get down there and like we can see that a wedding is set up on the pavilion above us, but it's completely empty below. And he just let us down there and we watched the Epcot fireworks. It was Illuminations at the time, RIP, in complete privacy. And
Again, my eyes are willing.
yes, it was amazing. And the amount of gratitude I had for that man when we came back up from watching the fireworks was incredible. I was just like, thank you so much. Like, we were not expecting at all to even stay for the fireworks.
Right.
Let alone be on this private terrace with a wedding happening above us watching the fireworks.
Oh my gosh.
It was really amazing.
That's incredible.
So now, wear the button.
Yes.
If you are celebrating anything, it could be from 6 months ago. If you are celebrating something, you put that button on because you never know what a cast member from across a walkway is going to see and say, you know what? I'm going to surprise that person with a little magic today.
Yep, absolutely. And it's one of those things too, especially if you wear it like the whole trip, right? So like if you're celebrating your anniversary, wear it the whole trip,
Right.
not just that day.
Exactly.
Your birthday, like when I go in a couple weeks, you bet your ass I'll be wearing a birthday button the whole week. Because it is something that not just for like people knowing it's your birthday or your anniversary or your wedding, but like it's something that also to me like marks the trip.
Yes.
Right? And it's like that button comes with you on all the rides and goes to the restaurants. It's like almost like a part of the trip. And I know it sounds so silly, but you also then eventually forget that you're wearing it.
Exactly.
So like what you were saying, if you forget you have your button on and somebody's like waving you over, you're like, why is this person talking to me? Or someone's like, happy birthday, or like congratulations on whatever you're celebrating. You truly like, oh my gosh, like it almost is again one of those little things that like becomes magic. You're like, how do they know? Oh yeah, I'm wearing a giant ass button on me. It tells it. But you don't think about that.
Right. You totally forget it's there. And it truly is an opportunity for cast members to just say, I'm going to make, even if it's just a moment in time, I'm going to make it special for them. And
absolutely.
Yeah. You know, you never go into a Disney park thinking like, oh my gosh, all this amazing things are going to happen to me. Like I'm going to get all these perks. But when they do happen, it's like, I could cry thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's just, it's really amazing. And it's something that you're going to remember for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
Like, I still think of, I literally cry every time I watch the video of Mickey recognizing Nate.
Oh my God.
And Sam. And I lose it every time I watch it on your stories.
Same.
That is the epitome of why Disney is as amazing as it is.
Absolutely. And the cast members, I will shout this to the rooftops. This will be the hill that I die on.
Mm-hmm.
Be nice to every cast member you interact with. They are the ones that are creating the magic for you.
1,000,000,000 kajillion%.
Everyone from the people, like they're one you scan your magic band walking in, to the person serving you, to the person.
Your bellhop.
Yep.
Every single person.
The custodian that's like drawing a water Mickey Mouse on the ground.
Yep.
Like they are all part of what truly makes it special. And something else too, because I also am big, as we were just talking about, button person. I will also be the person, like if I see somebody with a birthday button celebrating, like, oh, congratulations or happy birthday. Like, that's also a really fun way for you as a guest to interact with other guests too. Like whether it's that you're in line or something like that. So also be a part of the magic yourself, right?
Yes,
like
exactly.
if you see and notice those things, oh my gosh, especially little kids.
Exactly.
They're like, oh my gosh, happy birthday, you're having fun. Like they'll be like, oh my gosh, thank you, I am. Like they love it. And
they do.
It's something so simple that can really make somebody's day special. So I'm glad you're team button.
Yes.
Because I will always be team button.
Stop at Town Hall. Get yourself a button.
Yes.
You need one.
All right. So we are coming to the end. This has been so fun. Thank you so much for coming on, talking all about Disney World and Disneyland. Any last tips, tricks, things you want to share, must-dos for people in Disneyland or Disney World?
I think my biggest takeaway thing I'll say about Disney is if you are in the, if you get the opportunity to go, just take it all in and really enjoy your time there. Mm-hmm. And enjoy those little interactions even with various cast members and people you come across, because they are also there sharing such a common love of something. And it's just really amazing that this one man and mouse made this incredible community. And it just gives me all the warm, fuzzy feelings.
I love it. All right. Well, Taasi, again, thank you so much for coming on. This was so fun. If you have questions about Disneyland, Disney World, want to talk to the expert, I will send you over to Taasi.
Yes.
Taasi, can people find you on the internet?
Yeah.
Where can they find and talk to you if they have questions
You
about?
can find me on Instagram if you want to chit chat Disney or mom life or anything. If you want a friend, find me on Instagram. I'm here.
I love it. And where can they find you on Insta?
My name is Taasi Marina with 2 A's.
Perfect. We'll drop it into the show notes so you
Yes.
guys can chat about all things Disneyland, Disney World, like I said, mom life, all the good things.
Everything.
And hopefully we'll talk soon. Also, when you're getting ready to plan your trip, hopefully maybe we'll get Brian to come on too. And you guys can talk about together planning baby's first trip and how all that comes together.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Amazing. Thanks so much for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed today's episode talking about Disneyland and Disney World. Stick around for new episodes every Monday. It's going to be great.